This week on Bow Hunt or Die, I work on one of the largest projects that I ever have done on a piece of property before. But before I spoil those details, let's first talk about part 1 and part 2. If you've been following along, I've been sharing with you things that I've been doing on my dream farm to make it the best that I can. Part 1, I showed you water holes and some other little tweaks you can do to your property. Make sure you get back and watch that video if you haven't seen it. In part 2, I share with you some logging projects that I'm working on to be able to create younger forests. But for now, we're going to talk about the stream bank enhancement project I worked on with NRCS. This one was a big one. When I purchased the property, I knew that there were problems with the stream with how much erosion I was having. And there was one critical piece where I figured after a few more storms, it was very possible it might even be difficult for me to be able to get to different parts of my property. Luckily for me, I was able to meet with NRCS to come up with some solutions to be able to really address the erosion and to be able to protect the stream for many years to come.
This is a perfect example. I think when we met here a while ago, you pointed this one out to me, but this is what pretty much the entire stream looks like. Come here and take a look at this. This is exactly the reason why this program is so important and needed, and people need to get involved and need to do whatever they can do to help protect our resources. Take a look at this here. I mean, this is just the best example, Shay. I mean, I don't know if it's the best example, but
it's a good example.
It's a dang good example of, I mean, if you walk right there, you're gonna fall right off that edge. I mean, literally, during the flood stage, this water comes around and is just eroding all this dirt away. I mean, just taking acres and acres of property away. I'm gonna jump down here just to show you how much we're talking about.
Yeah, you've lost 6 feet, or you have a 6-foot raw bank right here that's straight down.
Look at that. And it's just all dirt. I mean, there's nothing in here. I mean, you can just see the dirt just giving way. I mean, the next time we get a heavy rain and that water comes in here, it just keeps undermining where the root system is, and then eventually this all just keeps caving in and it just ends up taking your property. Okay, I'm losing it here. Keeps taking your property away, just like it's taking me. But yeah, this is exactly the reason why when I learned about this program, I was like, we need to do this, because I was gonna just keep losing acre and acre and acres.
You can see a chunk of grass just above you there that still has grass on it that fell in recently.
Right here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just from small storms. When we get a big storm, you're losing 2 foot of soil hitting right here. The water's coming down straight down through here and hitting real hard.
You know,
right
and
here.
I think this is a good example, Shay, when we're standing here together, you know, talking about root systems, right? I mean, so when we're done with this project, the next thing we're going to be doing is planting a nice border of switchgrass. And the cool thing about switchgrass, which a lot of people don't realize, is let's say your switchgrass stem is, I don't know, 4 or 5 foot tall. They say that the root system is almost 2 to 3 times greater than what you see above, you know, above the ground. So that root system can go way down in here and help stabilize the bank for years. And with what we've done with all that rock and the keys that they put in and how they have structurally engineered it, that's gonna keep that all together. And when those roots start to grow from that switchgrass, it just locks it all together, preventing this from happening in the future.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that grass is a much better stabilizer than trees. A lot of people want to keep the trees along the stream.
Ha! Shay's talking about me right now.
Yes. We don't want those box elder trees on the creek. We'd rather have grass. It holds the soil much better than those trees do. The water hits those trees and hits those roots and washes around them and cuts around those trees. Everyone's seen trees falling into the creek because of that process.
All right, I'm gonna let Shay win. I'm gonna reduce the amount of trees on the edges, because Shay is 100% correct. I mean, obviously I want to be able to see oak trees and different types of trees to be able to hunt from down the road in the future, but he is 100% correct. And I mean, it's my personal selfishness that wants to see those trees along, you know, these streams, but truthfully, the grass is what's going to stabilize it the best for sure. So
absolutely.
I'm going to let you win, Shay.
Thanks, Todd.
We're moving along here, and this is a spot that, you know, Shay kind of stopped us at. This is one of the first, what they call reaches that we did with setting the rock, but I think the important thing is, you know, a lot of times you just see this rock, you know, for me who, you know, is brand new to this, I just saw the rock along the bank and your brain's just thinking, oh, okay, that's just rock along the bank. But there's really specific engineering plans that they kind of put together here. And honestly, Shay, you know a lot more about this than I do, and you're kind of standing like right on it. Can you explain to people what a key is and why it's important with the way the river's going to run through here during a flood stage and what will happen kind of in this critical spot right here?
Yeah, so there's rock back into the bank here, 18 feet back here, and at least 4 feet wide, full of the same rock you see right here. And that prevents the water from getting behind the stone toe, is what we call this rock on the bank. So if the water gets behind the stone toe, it's more liable to wash it away from the bank. With the keys, it prevents the water, the main flow of the water anyway, from getting behind the stone toe, and it holds it in place.
Huh. Yeah, well, and of course, then with the way that goes way back there, once we get that planting going, those roots will grow in, lock those rocks in there, and just preserve it even better. You know, obviously you're looking at this and you're going like, Todd, how in the heck are your deer gonna cross this thing? Actually, I'm hoping it slows them down. No, I'm kidding. Both sides of the bank are not, okay, I'm gonna get some sturdier ground here. All Brandon wants me to do is fall in this creek is what he wants me to do. Both sides of the bank are not being done. What they're really focusing on is when the water is hitting the most heaviest erosion areas, because not both sides are being eroded at the same level. So a lot of this rock will end up getting to, or we'll get to a point where it will stop, and then another one will pick up a little bit later. So ultimately what will happen is, you know, the deer will learn where they can cross and where they can't cross.
So this is one of their main crossing areas. We've got the stream bank project right back here, but this is where they really like to cross. So want to make sure that we got a nice little crossing here, make another cool little spot to hunt. Well, I'm really feeling good about today. Ben and his guys have been working their tails off getting this stream bank project done. Hopefully with a little bit of luck and no broken equipment, everything will go smooth today, and we will be putting the final touches on the stream bank project. We got the last, I don't know, maybe 100 feet to go. So gonna try to get this knocked out today, get her all done, start working on the planting and the habitat, and start getting this place settled down, because there's been a lot of activity here the last like year and a half, to be honest with you. So this is looking pretty good. Unfortunately, the drought has definitely prevented some of the switchgrass from getting as good of a start as I was hoping, but the oats that we planted are definitely preserving the bank, and it's just going to be a matter of time until those switchgrass plantings start to take off. It's been about 2 months now, and I finally was able to get Beth from the office back out to the property to be able to see all the enhancements now that they've been finished, and she shares with us a little more information about NRCS and EQIP programs. Well, Beth, thanks so much for coming out here today. I mean, I can't believe we're standing here now in July and the project is completely finished, but this was a big one for me, guys. I know you've been watching the show, you've been hearing about some of the different projects I've been working on my property here. Beth is with the NRCS office, and ultimately it was Beth who kind of saw what I was doing down here, and it was her kind of paying attention to my property when we were here kind of touring the property and looking at some different things for some completely different projects, and they were of much smaller scale. You know, we were looking at doing a little bit of tree work over here off my right shoulder. We were actually up on that hillside. We were looking at a nice little hazelnut grove that we had over there. We were going to do some hinge cutting in there to try to drop those trees and kind of really get that to grow. But we were up on that hillside, and Beth's like, gosh, that stream of yours really is super beautiful, but man, the erosion on that is terrible. And I was like, I mean, I kind of knew when I bought the property, like, you know, yeah, I mean, I knew it was bad and I knew it wasn't the greatest. And kind of driving around the county, I mean, you do driving through this kind of dripless area, as they call it, you know, going into the town over here. I mean, there's a lot of areas where it's super bad. So I just kind of figured like, you know, I guess that's just the way it is. And, you know, I just kind of figured it was way out of my reach to ever, you know, with my equipment and my expertise to really go in and be able to fix anything like that. But, you know, you were standing back on the hillside right over there and you're like, you know, we should take a look at that because it's not going to be long. And there's, on this piece of property, there's this way the creek flows, there's this
kind of like pinch point.
Yeah.
And I mean, a few events of flooding, and eventually that was going to just kind of erode away, and then literally it would make it very difficult for me to access a big portion of my property, and it's just getting worse, and I'm losing some really good, you know, ground down here, and it's just kind of a shame. So Beth, you were like, gosh, we should take a look at that, because there are programs through NRCS and EQIP, or a program specifically called EQIP, I guess it's called, that could help assist in a situation like that. So Beth, I mean, I'm going to stop doing all the talking here. If you can kind of share with us, you know, who the NRCS is, what you guys do, and then maybe even talk a little bit about the programs, that'd be great.
Sure, yeah. The NRCS is a agency within the Department of Agriculture, and we are located, we have field offices in just about every county in the whole US, and even beyond that as well. So if you're looking for a neighborhood NRCS office, you could type that into Google and probably be able to find one in your local area or within your within a couple of counties around you.
The thing that people don't realize is, you know, it's really just a phone call away. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, they're not here to necessarily police us or say, hey, you know, what are you doing over there? I mean, at the end of the day, it's really about helping protect resources. I mean, you know what? We all live on the same planet here. We're all trying to do the best that we can do with the resources that we have. And, you know, what we do up here does affect people downstream. So this was just a great program for me specifically when Beth picked it out, because it was something that, you know, it was number one, really needs to be done. It needs to be done, quite frankly, in a lot more areas. And I think beyond doing programs as large as this, there are smaller things that can be done too. I mean, it doesn't always necessarily have to be this large of a scale of a project. I mean, I know just working with you, Beth, and beginning to learn more about this stuff. I mean, it could be as simple as, you know, a waterway that gets eroded all the time. It could be as simple as, you know, you've got a forest that really just needs some help. It needs some new tree growth, and you're just not sure what to do. There's a lot of different things that NRCS can help you with. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about this particular project, because there was I mean, I'm not going to lie, like when Beth brought it up to me, and then I started meeting Shay too, and both you guys were working together and kind of telling me about, you know, how many loads of rock was going to have to be brought down here and how much work was going to have to be done. You know, I got to admit, I was like, oh man, I don't know if I want to, you know, screw up my deer hunting season. I don't know if I want to, you know, scare all the deer away. I'm ridiculous. You know, the deer, as soon as the contractors will leave, the deer are right back in here wondering what's going on. You know, it's silly we even think that way. But, you know, as I got a little bit more familiar with the project, and as you began to kind of show me, you know, the benefits that it was going to ultimately do in the long run, and how much, you know, ground and dirt and topsoil I was losing, it made a lot of sense, you know. So, and in time, you know, of course, right now, you know, we're going to show some, you know, videos and stuff like that. But I mean, you're still looking at it in its very early stages. Like, I mean, the rock is still kind of getting settled in. The switchgrass, unfortunately, because we've been in a terrible drought this year, just really hasn't, you know, poked its head out yet. I know that we've got a lot more hot weather coming down the road here. So I'm hoping that's going to kind of get up and get going here soon, because once that root structure really starts to lock in those rocks and really gets along this entire creek line here, I'm really done a good thing, not just for my property, but even downstream for the next, you know, bigger event that we have. Now, when it comes to the cost share, I know that's a big thing that people ask about, is like, oh boy, you know, Todd, did you have to pay for that? You know, is there assistance? And of course, you know, yes, I did have to use some of my own financial resources for sure. Yes, I was, you know, lucky enough to be able to be a part of this EQIP program and have a cost share. And I think that's good, because at the end of the day, you know, when you're using your own money, you know, you're also, you know, paying a lot more attention to, because, you know, it's not just, oh, I got these trees for free. I don't necessarily care what happens to them, you know, and that's sometimes how people think, right? And that's not the case with this particular project. You know, there was a cost share, and of course, you know what, I want to make sure that this is going to be as successful as possible, because, you know, I want it to last, and I want it to be really good for the future. So in 100 million years, honestly, I never would have thought that we would have been able to accomplish this amazing thing that we accomplished down here. I mean, seriously, like, I just didn't, you know, and truly, Beth, if it wasn't for you up there with Ellen, and we were, I mean, literally, I mean, if you would not have opened your mouth and said, boy, wow, that's a project that needs to be addressed, and we have some resources to be able to help with that. Like seriously, I would not have been able to get that
Absolutely.
accomplished.
Yeah.
And the reality is, so some people would be like, well, so what, Todd? It's just a creek or stream. Well, the reality is, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now, that would have cut off. And it would have been a problem, and then I would have been trying to figure out how I'm going to cross the creek, and quite frankly, it probably would have devalued the property over time. And what I really have done now is really just made the property that much better. So,
Correct. Yeah.
again, Beth, I appreciate your office and all the help that I've received from you guys over there.
Yeah.
And hopefully there'll be a few more projects down the road that we can keep on enhancing the property.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of more projects, the next time you see me will be part 4 of our video series. We're going to share with you all the different tree plantings and shrub plantings that I've been planting on the property to increase my overall habitat base.